So this is Time to Get Up. He's a beautiful horse, single seat, 1 horsepower, 4-hoof drive, very reliable, a definite winner. This season he's just going to wipe the floor. This over here, in contrast, is the Ford Mustang Mach-E. It's 350 horsepower, 5 seats, goes like stink, is really amazing. So that's a real horse. This is a car horse. This is Jackdaw's Castle, and welcome to Fully Charged.
Don't forget our great EV giveaway. Subscribe and enter for the chance to win one of several electrifying prizes, including one of 4 electric cars.
So driving the Mustang Mach-E actually is, it just feels like it's one of those ones, it's a bit Polestar-y, it's a bit Porsche Taycan-y, it's just like, oh yes. You know, this is, you feel privileged. You feel, oh, I don't really deserve this. I don't really deserve a car as nice as this. This is proper, this is really nice. I've got to remember that back in the mid-2000s, I drove a classic sort of big, hefty Ford Mustang in Los Angeles for a very short time. It belonged to a friend of mine, Darren Ewing, who's completely barking mad but wonderful TV director, and I drove his Mustang along the streets of Los Angeles.
What?
Oh, hell, I got that face on camera. Up at Llewellyn, stunned that the car started.
That is just what I'm doing. Think, you know, the 3 years I've been driving a hybrid, and I've already, just sitting here now, used more gas than I've ever saved.
And that was such a different experience to this. So what I think is remarkable that Ford have done is they haven't gone, oh, let's just convert one of our existing petrol cars to electric. They've built this car from the ground up. They've thought it through. That's why I like these cars. So the ID3, all the cars made by legacy automakers where they've built the car from the ground up to be electric, not a conversion or a partly hybrid one. It's pure electric. It really makes a difference. And that's what it sounded like. So this has got an artificial sound that actually, it's weird, it sounds like it's coming from behind you, so it sounds like an exhaust, like there's a low exhaust coming out this side. It's very, very peculiar. This is so unlike the classic petrol, you know, 5.2 litre V8 throbbing American muscle car. This is not like that. But it is just a very, very pleasant car to drive. The look of it, you know, is a big, hefty SUV style car, but I just think it does look really good. It's really grown on me, and it has certain features I can see now from looking at it that reflect and respond to the old Mustang. It's quite American in its styling. It's an American car, quelle surprise. It's got 1 or 2 quirky things that I quite like, that when you first see them you go, well, that's a bit unnecessary and weird. Why that? Like the doors, you know, that is a thing that you press the button there, the door opens, and there's a little pulley thing there. There's nothing here, no door handles at all. Okay. I mean, it does what it's meant to do. So this version, the all-wheel drive, extended range Mustang Mach-E, that does 0 to 60, I reckon, in about 5 seconds. It's somewhere close to that, and it has a top speed of 112 miles an hour. This is, I'm impressed with this. Now you can see I've been driving this much too hard, and at the moment I'm getting 2.6 miles to the kilowatt hour, which is really poor. I've done much better than that. With this, I reset the trip computer this morning, but this is so clear and so obvious, and it tells you how you're driving, which particular parts of the car are using which sort of energy, how much energy they're using. So at the moment the to run the climate in the car, because we've had all the doors open, we've been filming, it's a cold day, it's very windy, so the heating has been working hard. So I've used 17% of the energy in this particular 1 hour 50 of driving. 70% of the energy has been to run the heater, which really tells you that the heater uses some power. 74% of the energy used is for the root, i.e. the battery feeding power to the motors to drive you along. 3% is going to the accessories. That's like my phone, which is charging. That's taken 3%. I guess that's what that is. Maybe it's that's also the sat-nav, the screen, and all the rest of it, now I think about it. And then 6% is external temperature. Well, I'm not exactly sure what that means, but the most likely thing that means is the battery heating. So since I've been driving now, I've been talking to you now, I've driven 12 miles, and I'm actually 3.7 miles to the kilowatt hour, so that's a lot better. So we have been thrashing the car. We've been racing horses. You know, and horses can really shift. They were touching 38 miles an hour up a hill. That's pretty impressive to do running at that speed. But it's got all the other things. It's got, Apple CarPlay, all that stuff. Android Auto, all that stuff. That all comes in. That was so simple. I put my phone in here, it connected to the thing, boom, done. It's got sensors everywhere. The cameras on the car are really, really good. So you're reversing cameras, but when you're maneuvering in a tight space, you get a downward view, an aerial view of everything around you. But actually, this is the bit that I like. But I actually love the view from the back. I think it's got a beautiful rear end. As you can see, it's all-wheel drive, and I just think that is very cool. So you've got your Mustang, your all-wheel drive, and this is good. Look at that. That actually works. I can do it. I think it was on the Polestar. I couldn't make the back open, but this one works beautifully. Massive trunk. It's got it's got more room underneath there, and it's got a frunk as well, or a fruit. Not that anyone ever says fruit, but it's got storage in the front. We'll have a look at that as well, and that works beautifully. No, I mean, if you're going to buy a car that's as expensive as this and as big as this has got to be on your list if you're in the market for that, or if you're going to lease a car that's on this scale. This is a really nicely put together, beautiful machine. So one of the features that is a classic, a Mustang fanatic would notice this, is that the light clusters at the back here are identical to the classic Ford Mustang petrol car. And so there are some little homages, because really there's nothing else that is like directly, it doesn't quite look like an old Mustang, let's be honest. But those lights are very recognisable. So any Mustang aficionado coming up behind this car would go, baby, I can tell that was a Mustang from 500 metres. So the interior is really roomy. It is a very comfortable car, really good visibility, and very simple to use touchscreen, big touchscreen, but with a physical knob. Got a physical knob, but big screen there, really simple screen to see right in front of you. Simple controls. I got used to this car in seconds of getting into it. I knew how to do things. So from that point of view, it's really good. So the interior design, I do think, is intriguing. I really like the materials that Ford have used for this. I think, there are things like the red stitching around the seats and around the dash, and the steering wheel. It's clearly, that's a big fashion thing. It's got red stitching on the background, beautiful. But what is intriguing is loads of room for the passenger. It's just a spacious car. The seats, very, very comfortable. Of course, they're heated. They do all sorts of lumbar support, wibbly wobbly stuff. But that's what you expect in a car like this. This isn't a sort of cheap mid-market car. This is a high-end posh car. But one of the intriguing things is, I remember so clearly the reaction when the Tesla first came out with this upright big screen, bigger than an iPad screen. Everybody freaked out, man, that's crazy. Why would anyone have that? Now Tesla have screens going that way, as they do in the Model 3, and now Ford have put in a great big screen this way. Tesla have had an influence on the automobile industry. There's no denying it. Whether it's good or bad is debatable, but they've had a massive influence. This is one of the biggest, longest established car companies in the world, and they have copied, beat for beat, a new upstart company. The difference is they've got a knob. They've got a physical turning knob. That does your volume on your radio or on your sound system. So there are 3 levels. There are 3 levels of sound, ambient sound, or artificial sound that you can have with the car. There are active, whisper, and untamed, which is like a horse. You know, you have a horse whisperer, you have an active horse. This is untamed. So now it's giving it the little. Anyway, that is just nonsense stuff. So the Mustang Mach-E comes in essentially 2 groups of flavours, if you like. There's the Mustang Mach-E standard range, and that has a 68 kilowatt hour battery, and that costs just over £37,000 on the road in the UK. So, you know, not a cheap car by any means, but that's the base model. That's the super cheap one. This particular one I'm driving is the all-wheel drive extended range. So this has an 88 kilowatt hour battery, and that is usable capacity. The actual battery is about 94 kilowatt hours, but the usable battery capacity is 88 kilowatt hours. That has, according to Ford's commercial advertising, the way they sell this car, has a range of 315 miles on one charge. And when you see that, you just go, that is just crazy. I know it's not true. So the EV database, which is a brilliant website that we use to calculate real range and the realistic range, is 260. Now, from driving it a little bit in the last couple of days, I can tell that I could probably in the summer, with a bit of careful driving, get over that 280, I think, quite easily, and you might even nudge it towards 290, 300. It's possible if you are really careful. It is actually quite fuel sipping, and the speed this car charges is very impressive. So that's all really, really good. This car, I think they've done some clever research and development while they were developing this car, and they've managed to make it capable of using not so much power to cover a mile. So we're talking 4.2, 4.3 miles to the kilowatt hour, which is really, really impressive in a car this size. And the software that lets you understand that is really clear and intuitive. The build quality is, I would say, exceptionally good, and the materials that are used in the car, I really appreciate the materials on the dash, the look of the car, the solidity of the doors, all that stuff is really, really nice. The sunroof is magnificent. Not the sunroof, the glass roof, because it doesn't open. But if you sit in the back, it's just I was really impressed. The back seats in this car are the most comfortable and roomy seats that I can remember sitting in of any car we've ever had on fully charged. Now, the back. This is my first time getting in the back. Oh my goodness. Oh, that is nice. No, seriously. You would be very happy sitting in the back of this car. That is really comfortable. Now, that seat is adjusted to fit me. So look at that. I've got loads of room there. Rather peculiar. The middle seat would be quite weird. Oh, I'm not going to lie. That's not as comfortable. If you said, no, I don't mind sitting in the middle, and you're on a long drive, you would regret that very soon. But clearly, if normally for 4 people, and you've got your pull down, seriously, this is really comfy. I actually feel I've got really good visibility, which is unusual in the back seat of modern cars. Fantastic. Very, very nice. A fantastic glass roof. It's not a sunroof, but it's just glass. It just means you feel airier and you feel lighter. Loads of headroom. Really, really good. So now I'm doing manual driving. I'm not using the cruise control, and I've got the setting onto one pedal driving. Now, I first came across one pedal driving in the Nissan Leaf a few years ago when they introduced it there. So what that does, it means it uses huge amounts of it turns regen up to the max. So you take your foot off the throttle like that now, and I can feel it slowing down. It feels like I'm putting the brakes on, and it will actually come to a halt. I'm not doing anything. I'm not touching any brake. Look at that. It's stopped. Now I start again. So what happens there is it uses the regen of the motor till it gets it right down low, and then it actually applies mechanical brakes. So you actually come to a complete stop. Well, I did not feel any difference between the regen and the brake coming on. There isn't a kind of sudden point where it goes, but they've got that down really well. Same as Nissan. Nissan did it, the first time I ever experienced that was with Nissan. I'm pretty sure it's safe to say Nissan did one pedal driving first. But they've certainly got that really well, and I think it's a really good feature, and it will show you, if you haven't driven an electric vehicle before, just the capabilities of an electric car are way more than it doesn't have smoke coming out of the back. Now I've been driving it long enough, I've got the basic gist of what's going on. There's a few glitches with this car, and I think that absolutely sums up the legacy car makers. The sat-nav at the moment doesn't work. It does not work. The built-in sat-nav. Now, that is just a little software glitch. I'm sure they can make it work. I'm sure if you bought a new Ford Mach-E, it would work. There's no question of it. But this doesn't. It doesn't matter how far you drive, you're always in exactly the same place you were when you started, which is a bit disappointing. So I had to use Apple CarPlay to find my way to these chargers. The good side of it is it does charge at 150 kilowatts. It really pumps the power in, so that works really well. It's quite busy, as you can tell where we are. The other things that I forgot to mention, the sound system is absolutely amazing. The Bose sound system that's built into the car. I didn't even realise when I was driving along, once we'd finished filming, I jacked the sound up and I was rocking out. For a gentleman of my ears, you know, that does take some doing, but it was absolutely, that is amazing. So the sound is brilliant. The front, there's a lot of room in the front. Apparently there was discussions that it was possible for a child to climb in, and then you close the thing and you'd forget your child was in there. So they put compartmentalised it so that nobody can get in it. And actually the compartments are very useful. So that's where the charging cables are stored, and you know, if you put your shopping in there, it's not going to flap about when you're driving along. So that's quite good. So that's useful. The big advantage still that a Tesla has over this car, you know, similar price cars, similar performance, is the supercharging network. There's no point denying it. When we came to these brand new Ionity chargers, and they're really good and they deliver a huge amount of power and they've got the infrastructure back up, we can see it there, it was still a faff to get it to actually charge. You had to go through a bit of a rigmarole with apps and cards, and you just think, why is this still an issue now in 2021? I just want the charging networks to get off their lazy butts and make it simple. I just want to plug the car in, I want the charger to recognize the car and the thing to work. It's just infuriating that that's still a hassle. So that is definitely an advantage of the Tesla. Tesla supercharger, you drive it, you plug it in, you walk away, you don't even think about it, and they always work. End of rant, end of episode. As always, if you have been, thank you for watching.
Speed limit?